Strong, smart, bold, inspired. WSSB, Girl TV.
Hi, I'm Bailey. Welcome to WSSB Girl TV, where we're strong, smart, and bold. This week's show has some amazing stories. Our team participates in Nik Wallenda's press conference as he prepared for his famous Grand Canyon walk. Our team also talks with the TV crew from NBC and Discovery Channel. Emma shares a story on white rhinos. And we have part 2 of our visit from Sarasota Police Department, Chief DiPino. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Hi, I'm Bailey, and I'm with WSSB Girl TV. I was wondering, what are the thoughts that are going through your mind when you're walking on the tightrope?
Well, I am trying to focus on what I'm doing, and I try not to focus on my surrounding. I try to stay completely focused on what I'm doing. Now here, when I'm training, I'm actually focusing on the Grand Canyon and visualizing myself going over the Grand Canyon. When I'm in the Grand Canyon, I'll visualize myself back here training, and that's really more mental training than anything else.
Why do you risk your life walking on wires?
Well, you see it as risking my life. I don't see it as risking my life. Yes, there are dangers to what I do for sure, but there's also dangers getting in a car and driving. You're not in control of the people around you. So we all take risks every day. Mine just seem to be more unrelatable. You know, I think that a police officer's job is way more dangerous than mine. He's not in control of a criminal. Whereas I can control everything up there. I can train for the worst cases. I can train for winds. I can train for inclement weather, rain. So I can train for all of that stuff. So I feel like what I do is a very calculated risk. If there's ever any issues, just because I'm not hooked to the wire doesn't mean that I'm not going to survive if I were to slip. I've trained my entire life to reach down and grab that wire, and that wire is a safe haven. So if I'm 10 feet off the ground or 1,500 feet off the ground, no matter what, I'm going to reach down and grab that wire, and I've got safety teams on standby that will be to me anywhere on that wire within about 60 seconds. I don't say goodbye to my kids. I give them a hug and a kiss and tell them I'll see them in a little bit.
Do your children walk on the wire?
All 3 of my children do. I have a 15-year-old, I have a 12-year-old, and a 10-year-old. They all walk the wire. They're all very good. At this point, they all want to go to college, and I fully support that. And of course, like any parent, want them to do what's going to make them happy in life.
How does it affect you that family members have died walking on the wire?
Well, I have lost 5 family members walking on wires and performing. And it's part of what we do. It's part of our family history. We've learned a lot from the mistakes that they made, and we've adjusted for those mistakes. My great-grandfather lost his life in part because of rigging failure and in part because of his age. So we've learned that rigging is a key component to what we do, and we've also learned that there's an age that we have to retire. So we take what we've learned from their tragedies and do our best to make sure they won't happen or repeat themselves. I don't. My parents made me do it. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. I have done it since I was 2 years old, and my great-grandfather probably said it best. He said, life is on the wire and everything else is just waiting. And for our family, that's very true. It's fun. It's an awesome job. I get paid to make people happy and hopefully inspire people, which is a blessing to be in the position that I'm in.
Are those like some special boots you wear when you
They
walk
are. These
it?
are actually made by my mother, and they have an elk skin bottom. They're very thin, as you can see. That's so I can feel the wire. They protect my feet from the heat of the wire, because it will be hot out there in the desert as I cross the Grand Canyon. And they also are designed to where if there is rain and it does get wet, the wire becomes sticky instead of slippery.
What are the things that you're taking off your arms?
These are done by Ohio State University, and these are tests that they're doing to see the movement of my muscles, how my arms work, how I adjust to the movement of the wind, the movement of the cable under my feet. So it's just a scientific test that we're doing.
What advice do you have for them for life?
There's 3 words that I live by, and if everybody lives by them, life is a lot easier, and those are never give up. There's a lot of challenges that come our way, but as long as you focus on your dreams, focus on your goals, you can accomplish anything in life. So it's simple, never give up.
Hi everybody, I'm Rachel. Welcome to Girls Inc., a place where girls learn to be strong, smart, and bold.
Strong means when my muscles are big.
Daily sports and activities at Girls Inc. help girls to be strong in mind and body. Hiya! You're smart about choices. You don't always go along with the crowd. You pay attention in class and get good grades. Girls Inc. makes learning about science, math, art, and technology fun. Programs like Project Bold help girls become strong leaders, build self-confidence, and teaches girls to be themselves. I am Girls Inc.
I'm Girls Inc. I am Girls Inc.
Hi, my name is Emma. Today I'll be talking about right rhinos. Did you know that right rhinos can gather groups of up to 12 rhinos? Females have baby every 2.5 to 5 years. There are 5 different species of rhinos: black, white, Indian, Sumatran, and Javan rhinos. Rhinos' horns can go 3 inches a year and have been recorded to grow 5 feet. That's taller than me. Southern right rhinos were once thought to be extinct in the late 19th century, but a small population of less than 100 individuals was found in South Africa. Batnanjan, Fatu, Sundan, and Sumi are 4 of the world's last remaining 7 northern right rhinos. Their horns are used in China for medicine, and that's why they're almost extinct. Albert Stohr created the famous woodcut rhinoceros in 1515. The right rhino eats grass and drinks water twice a day, but can go 5 days without water. Only about 11,000 right rhinos survive in the wild, and many organizations are working to save this much-loved animal. They can weigh 4,000 to 6,000 pounds. The horn length is 37 inches to 40 inches. The lifespan is 40 to 50 years. See you next week on WSSB Girl TV.
Girls Inc. is teaching girls not just about now and how to be a better person and how to be a better leader now. They teach about history and how women were treated before.
It inspires all the girls to do stuff they never knew they could do.
I've learned to be responsible, and I've learned to do what I need to do and to get it done.
Because it shows younger girls and older girls about the real world, how it's like.
You know when you go to school and the teachers just teach you? When you come here, the teachers teach you, but they treat you as if you're family, as if they care about you. It's one of those places where you can feel like you can be yourself no matter what.
You don't have to worry about being scared or anything.
It's just a really big opportunity for me to be here, and I just love it. Just being able to laugh out loud and being like girls.
So Ian is a camera person, the cinematographer. I'm the director, producer, and I write and research and oversee post-production. And Dia is the associate producer who helps with all of that stuff.
Is it hard to find a good place to put your cameras
or do you have to move around?
You mean as far as making the shots? You know, it's not, I think after a while you have a sense of the shots that you want, and then you kind of get in a position and you kind of allow them to come together. Like you imagine a shot of him coming into frame, and so you think, where do I need to be for that? Usually you can get a few different shots from a certain angle. So I think that comes with experience though. In the beginning it's a little hard, but after you do it for a while it becomes very intuitive, and then it's really fun at that point because you're just going with it.
And you can really practice using just a still camera, you know, and composing. Like that's how you learn how to compose images.
It needs to be a little heavy, because if it's too light, it actually is hard to shoot with, because you need the camera to be heavy. So when you move the camera, if it's heavy, it gives you a little bit of resistance. But if it's really light, it would be hard to keep your shot steady. And the number one rule is to kind of hold your shot and keep it steady. You know, then the editor has something to work with. But if your camera's moving around all the time, it's very hard.
I did not actually study film at all, and I went to an all-women's college, an all-girls college called Bryn Mawr, which I really believe that your shirts, for sure. And I studied archaeology actually, and then I moved to New York City afterwards and after college, and I just sort of found my way into making television and telling stories and documentary.
Wow.
So you can study other ways. I learned how to write and do research, which is a really important part of, you know, being a journalist or telling stories like this in college. And you can do that with liberal arts educations.
Yeah, and I was an English major in undergrad, so again, writing is really important, and then broadcast journalism for my master's.
And I have a liberal arts degree, kind of in, I guess, philosophy, humanities, and just so that I never went to film school, but I always loved photography. I love looking at photographs, and I think if you just play with if you want to be a cinematographer, you don't need to go to film school. You just have to love photography and play around with it, and then it will come to you. I think the best thing to do in life is follow your curiosity. That's my one piece of advice.
Being curious is definitely very important.
Is it ever hard, and do you like what you do?
It's often hard, and I do like what I do. I think you have to like the problems. You have to be interested in solving the problems. Once you become not interested in solving the problems, then you should probably move on to something else. But you know, every time I go out with a camera, there's new challenges, and I think doing anything is like learning a language, and the more you learn to speak, the more fun it is to speak, and the more you can do with it. But in the beginning, it's challenging, but you learn every time you go out. But if you didn't learn every time you went out, it would probably be really boring. So.
Do you have to travel like everywhere to like live and
Yeah, we travel
we travel
a lot.
all over the place.
We travel a lot.
What are some of the places you've went to that you have really liked?
Sarasota.
Oh, yeah. First and foremost.
Good answer.
But that is a really cool aspect of this job, is that you do get to travel all over the place. I went to Berlin and Russia for work, and I went to Paraguay, and I've been all throughout other places in Europe, North Africa. So yeah, and then all over this country, which is really interesting because it's all different parts of the country are also different. So it's really a great way to meet people, because you get to meet people when you have a camera in a way that's different than just kind of being a tourist in a town. You really get to
It's fun to have a project.
Yeah, it's fun to have a project.
And we're all thrown together, all of us. This group here of 6 people, we're all thrown together, and we're working together, and that's fun and challenging. Personality stuff, I'm sure that you experience that as well, working with each other. And it's just really enjoyable most 90% of the time.
You have your little on-the-road family.
Yes.
Craziest story, it's kind of a complicated one, but I worked on a show for the History Channel, which was about whether or not Hitler died after the war, which is kind of, I don't know if you guys are too young to know who Hitler was, but he was a very evil dictator who died in World War II. And I went to Berlin in Russia and got a piece of his skull and then had it tested, and it turned out that this skull, which was supposed to be proof that he died in the war, actually belonged to a woman. So it was this very unusual testing that involved science and history and all sorts of stuff, which is cool. And traveling to interesting places.
I like that I get to meet people every day and help people. I like that I can make a difference in people's lives, in the police officers' lives, and help them be the best police officers they can be so that they can help people in the community. And I feel like that the work that I do can make people happier and improve their life, improve the quality of their life. And that's what I've always wanted to do, is to have a positive impact. I am. Yes, I wear my vest every single day, and that's because I ask my officers every single day to wear their vest while they're out on the street. And I figure I'm not going to ask my officers to do anything that I wouldn't do myself every single day, and it keeps them safe and it keeps me safe. Yes, yes. There's been a number of cases where my heart really went out to the victims and the people involved. And there were a number of cases, especially when it comes to missing people, missing juveniles or missing family members, because I think about how I would feel if my family member, somebody I loved, was missing. There was a case where a woman was hurting her babies, and that was very hard to deal with. And but yeah, there are a lot of cases that you feel very passionate about, and I think you try to keep yourself a little bit objective, but to be a good police officer, your heart has to be involved in it, and you have to care, and the more you care, the better police officer you are. So sometimes you do have to cry, although I can't cry in public, but sometimes you do have to cry and have compassion and emotion when you're dealing with cases, because that's what makes you a better person and a better police officer. A lot of times in my career, a lot of times. And I worked narcotics. I worked as an undercover police officer for a number of years, and a lot of cases. As a matter of fact, very dangerous cases. My brother's car was firebombed one time because they thought it was my undercover car. And my life was threatened a number of times because of the job that I did. But I felt it was so important to get drugs off the street and fight the war on drugs, because of people like you, because I know how dangerous drugs are, and I really hope that none of you will ever try drugs, that you'll ever be around people that use drugs. And what I ask you to do, and I've taught this to many young people, is that if you ever think about using drugs, and that means alcohol too, because alcohol is a drug also. It's one of the most dangerous drugs that's out in our society, even though it's legal. I want you to do a lot of homework and research on it. Like any sport that you play, before you play the sport, wouldn't you go and say, well, what do I need to know about playing tennis? Okay, I need a racket, I need to know the rules, I need to know what uniform to wear. Do as much research about the drugs before you ever do it. And if you do research about drugs, you'll never even try it in the first place. Because all drugs do is it makes you feel bad, it damages your body, it damages your memory, it damages your organs, it can shorten your life, and as a matter of fact, it can kill you. Okay, so don't ever try drugs. And if somebody asks you to try drugs, all you have to do is say no thank you and leave and go away from them. And really look out for your friends too. Don't let them ever try drugs either. They're really dangerous. There was a case that I worked where a young boy was missing, and he ended up drowning. And his body was found up in New Jersey, way far away from where we lived before. And he had gone out swimming and couldn't stay up, and he ended up drowning. So that's really sad. Anytime that there's a child or a young person that's missing. I think probably the saddest case that I ever worked And this is a little bit of a long story, but I'll share it with you. As a police officer, my family has a history. It's in our blood that if there's trouble around, we're there. The DiPinos have that reputation. And this night was no different. I was patrolling, and a call came out that a shooting just occurred at 12th Street, and I was at 10th Street, only 2 blocks away. And this was in Ocean City, Maryland. And the call came out as there was a shooting that occurred at the Rancho Apartments. And I was like, I'm right here, hold me out. So I get to the Rancho Apartments, and there are young people yelling and screaming and crying and running out. And I said, where's the shooter? Where's the person that shot? And they said, around the back and up the stairs. So luckily I was on the SWAT team, so I knew the right tactics. I went up the stairs, I had my gun out, and I saw laying at the top of the stairs a young man that was only 17 years old, and I could tell that he was dying. And as a matter of fact, I watched him take his last breaths. And I looked over and I saw an older man. I said, where's the person that shot him? And he said, I shot him and the gun's in there. And I looked over and I saw the gun leaning against the wall. And finally my backup got there. And I said to the officer that backed me up, arrest that man. He's put him in handcuffs. I went and cleared the room. There was nobody else in the room, and I knew the gun was evidence, so I didn't touch it. I went back out, and that's when I saw the young man take his last breaths. He was really handsome. And I didn't know why he was dying or why he died, because I thought if he was shot, there should be blood all over the place. Because I watch movies. Don't you watch the movies? And you see in the movies and you see a lot of blood when somebody gets shot? Well, that's not necessarily how it is in real life. As a matter of fact, all I saw was one tiny little hole in his shirt and a little tiny drop of red around it. And so I couldn't understand why he was dying and why he actually took his last breaths. So at that point, some of his friends came up the stairs, and they saw their friend dying, and they saw the man in handcuffs, so they went to attack him because they were mad. You killed our friend Johnny. So I grabbed the one guy by the shoulder. I said, leave him alone, and he punched me in the mouth. And my lips went chunk, 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 like really swollen. Anybody here ever been punched in the mouth? It hurts really bad, and your lips feel like they're really big. And I said, somebody have a mirror, because I want to see what my lips look like. But I looked at the mirror later, and my lips didn't look any more swollen, but they hurt really bad. So I pepper sprayed him and handcuffed him because he punched me. So here's the story. Here's what happened. So they knocked on the door, and they asked the manager, the man that we ended up arresting, where's this guy who hurt our friend? And he said, look, you need to get off the property. I don't need any trouble. So they said, we're going to cap you, old man. We've got a gun, and we're going to kill you. We want to know where this guy is. So the older gentleman pulled out a rifle, the one that I saw in the room. And he said to the young man, you need to get off this property. And at that point, the young man lunged towards the old man, and the older man shot him once in the heart, which stopped his heart immediately and killed him, basically, right there. That's why there wasn't a lot of blood, because his heart stopped. And the heart pumps blood throughout the body, and that's why there was no blood. The sad part was the young man was over 3 times the legal limit for alcohol. He had been drinking a lot, and he wasn't even allowed to drink. And he used really poor judgment. He didn't have a gun. The other bad thing was that the girl, she made the story up. She never had even been assaulted, but she had been drinking too. And so it was such a sad, tragic story. That's one of the saddest, most tragic stories that I've ever had to experience firsthand, to watch that young man die. And from that day forward, I swore if I could do anything to make sure young people didn't drink or use drugs, I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that didn't happen, because I didn't want to see another young person die because of something useless like drinking or drugs. So that's probably the saddest story that I could share with you, that I had to experience, in seeing a young person die. And after that, we strictly enforced the alcohol laws in Ocean City, and we made sure young people didn't die like that anymore. And we did a pretty good job after that. We really did. But I share that story because I think it's important to keep the memory of that young boy dying alive, and something to keep in all of our minds, because that didn't have to happen. It was a senseless tragedy. Alcohol is a huge part of it, and also people lying and not telling the truth. And it's important that you do all those things, is tell the truth, and also don't put yourself in a position where you're drinking or using drugs because you would use bad judgment. A lot of times, yes, definitely. And the first time I ever had to pepper spray somebody, I thought the person, when I pepper sprayed them, was just going to fall on the ground, but they didn't, because pepper spray takes sometimes a little bit of time, but once it caught up to them, and I've been pepper sprayed myself. I voluntarily got pepper sprayed so I would know what it felt like. Oh, it burns your eyes and it makes your nose run. It's really irritating, and it makes your face feel like it's sunburned. So you don't ever want to be pepper sprayed. I've also been tased too. And that's not. I volunteered to get tased just to know what it felt like, especially being the chief. And I tell you, I never want. If somebody has a taser, comply, agree. Yes, handcuff, do whatever it takes, because it hurts really bad. It's technically legal for people to have tasers, but I have to tell you, here's something you want to share with your grandmother. Your dog is the best defense that you can have. Most people are scared of dogs, even little dogs, because they bark. The taser, it's dangerous for anybody to carry a taser other than if you're trained, because somebody could take that taser away from your grandmother and use it against her. So tell her that she really shouldn't carry that, because somebody could steal it from her and hurt her with it. And she's just much better being, here's things you guys can do to keep safe. 1, make sure you travel with somebody else. Don't travel in places by yourselves. Okay, travel, safety's in numbers. Number 2, don't go down dark alleys and in places where you feel uncomfortable. It's creepy. And you brought up something, Mary, that's really important. Do you ever get a feeling that's, I don't feel comfortable being here, or I don't like that person? Trust your judgment, okay? That's called intuition. And you have to trust your intuition, because your intuition is telling you something. You may have smelled or seen or felt or heard something that makes you feel uncomfortable and unsafe. Don't discount that. Often people say, oh, that's not logical. Don't care about logical. Trust your judgment. If something doesn't feel right, don't go down there. If you don't feel comfortable about a person when you meet them, trust your judgment on that. Here's what you can do instead of carrying a taser. Have a bottle of water with ammonia in it. Okay, with ammonia, because the dogs, if you spray it, they don't like that smell and they're going to go away from you. There's other things that you can do, and definitely, if you have dangerous pit bulls in your neighborhood, call us, because we can. It's maybe something that we can address with them. And I'm so glad that you asked that question, because a lot of people think they know what it is to be a police officer based on what they see on TV, and it's really a lot different. If you've ever seen those shows where they have somebody that collects evidence and they say, oh, I've got a perfect match, I know who the bad guy is because their DNA matches, that just doesn't happen in police work. And it's not as easy as they make it seem.